I've got a much more optimistic story I want to talk about right now. Now, you may have heard yesterday, I asked Martin, because having instructed him prior to his departure for the World Cup, Rugby World Cup in Paris, I'd come up with a story, and I'm not a sports guy, but I'd come across a story that I felt fell into the sports milieu. And disc golf. I don't know if you've heard of disc golf. I am only slightly acquainted with it. I've seen, I think, people practicing or playing. I've seen some mentions of it on social media. But my understanding was I'd met a guy who was talking about having some competitive professional disc golf here in little old New Zealand in the Northern Hemisphere's off-season. And I asked Marty and Lockie to check it out. And I asked Marty yesterday, how are you going on that disc golf story? And I get this harumph from Mr. Devlin. It's not a sport. Well, I beg to differ. So if they weren't going to cover it in the sports show, I said, bugger it, we'll make it prime time. Disc golf, and I will branch out into sports reporting, we'll do disc golf. So we are joined now by young Kiwi entrepreneur Henry Pearson, who was the guy behind bringing professional disc golf to New Zealand. He's on the video link. Henry, good to see you, mate. How are you?
John, good morning. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be on the show.
That's all right. Well, tell us, what is the deal? Firstly, let's just have a crack at Devlin. Disc golf is a sport, right? And it's pretty popular around the world.
Indeed. Look, I'm glad you've got your priorities straight, Sean. You've got your head in the right space. Martin's maybe got a bit of a hangover from some of the great action he's been watching at the Cricket World Cup to neglect some smaller sports like us. But look, disc golf is alive and kicking and is certainly one of the world's fastest growing sports at the moment. 4 million players play in the United States alone. It's massive in Europe, particularly Scandinavia, and we're hoping to repeat similar growth rates here in Australia and New Zealand.
Well, we've got a staff member, believe it or not, in Finland. And he said, Finland, disc golf is huge over there. He said, Marty's got this completely wrong. Disc golf is big in Finland.
I feel like the odds are stacked against Martin at this rate with many passionate sort of disc golfers chirping in around the world about just how good our sport is. And I think the Finland national champs are televised. So, but look,
No!
Yeah, it's huge. It's really big.
All right,
but here in New Zealand...
For the uninitiated, Henry, tell us how, it looks to me, I'll be honest, looks a bit like Frisbee, but it's like Frisbee crossed with golf.
Pretty much, yeah. So the aim of the game is exactly the same as traditional golf. We have courses of 9 or 18 holes, and we aim to get around those courses in the least number of strokes or throws. The only real difference is the equipment that we use. So rather than hitting a ball with a club into a hole, we're throwing a disc, which is a specially designed type of Frisbee, into a target that we call a basket. And we get to play on all sorts of beautiful terrain, from wooded sort of forest areas, which is where traditional disc golf kind of grew up, sort of started. And there's an opportunity to merge disc golf courses into ball golf courses, which are starting to pop up in and around the country. So you get a nice mix of terrain.
And I imagine, look, having someone who's unsuccessfully played golf over many years, slightly more accessible, and you don't have to buy all those clubs and hire a professional. I mean, any idiot can throw a Frisbee, right?
You're right. It's super cost effective to get into. All you need is one disc golf disc, a sun hat, and a water bottle, and you're away laughing. But by the time you really get stuck into it, you might end up with a bag full of 20 or 30 discs that all do something slightly different.
No.
I've got a couple of...
No, like you can play your 9-iron disc. Or your
exactly.
putter disc.
Yeah. Well, we have sort of 3 categories. We've got our putters, our mid-ranges, and our drivers. And that the biggest difference between those is sort of the speed at which they can fly through the air. So I've got 2 discs here with me. The orange one is what we call a putter. It's got a much blunter edge.
Yep.
And then the blue one here is a driver. It's got a thinner edge. It's going to...
More aerodynamic. Distance.
You got it. That's right. Yeah.
Jeez.
So these are slightly different to like a catch Frisbee that you might have played with at the beach in the summer. They've got more of the weight concentrated in the rim, which means that they can fly much faster through the air than a catch disc. And some of the top pros here in New Zealand can throw these drivers upwards of.
Do we have
150
professional disc golfers in New Zealand?
We do. We've got a tour that's run by the New Zealand Disc Golf Association year round, and it features about 20 events up and down the country. And in fact, over the weekend, we just had the South Island Championships in Twizel, which had 200.
Bloody another story that Devlin missed. You know, bugger him.
We'll have to invite him up. Once he has a crack, he might get hooked.
Look, I am not going to let this go, I tell you. But look, more importantly, you've got plans for a kind of off-season, getting some of the real big names in the sport down here to New Zealand?
That's right, Sean. We had a couple of special visitors here the summer just been from the United States to come and enjoy our country and play a couple of tournaments. And they went back and raved to their touring pro peers in the United States about it. And the word that we had was that if we could put on a concentrated schedule of really premier events here in New Zealand, that we would get demand from those pros to come and spend their off-season here. So on the back of that, we've launched what we call the Tour Down Under, which is a new initiative, a professional circuit for disc golf. And we're inviting the world's best players to New Zealand to compete over 4 premier events at some of New Zealand's most beautiful disc golf locations in January and February this summer. And they'll compete alongside our local rising stars, which we have some really special local players who I think are going to make an impression on the world stage in the coming years.
Okay. What's the prize money they're going to be playing for? Or does that
we've got 900. Yeah, we've got 900 competitors competing across those 4 events, and they'll be competing for approximately $100,000 in cash and prizes. So it's a massive step in a really exciting direction for disc golf, which has been a largely grassroots sport here in New Zealand.
900 competitors.
That's right. Yeah,
that's big. That's big, Henry.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's awesome, and we're so excited to welcome spectators, some of the world's biggest disc golf promoters, brands, and media outlets to cover all of the events.
Where are they playing? Where are you going to have these 4 big events?
We've got Taupo is where we kick the tour off, and then we head to Auckland for the New Zealand National Championships. Then we've got a South Island League, which kicks off in Christchurch. That's the second weekend of February. And then our final event is at what I think is just the most beautiful spot in the country, Paradise, Glenorchy, which is about an hour's drive from Queenstown.
No, that's neat.
Yeah, it's just stunning down there. So Lord of the Rings type scenery. And I think a lot of our pros have visiting players from the US have got a bit of a Lord of the Rings interest. So going there and playing the sport that they love will be pretty special.
Give us an idea or a feeling, Henry, of the culture of disc golf. Sports, and if you like, non-mainstream sports often have their quirks and everything. I mean, skateboarders, cool, surfies, a lot of the old dacking up, isn't there, with the surfies? Well, that's what you think. What's the buzz on a disc golf circuit? What sort of people are drawn to it?
We've got a great community of people, and there's a few sort of memes that trudge around online about the really interesting intersect that disc golf brings people together. There's a lot of people that just love nature and are into things like hiking and mountaineering, and then you've got sort of a hippier style of crew that are pretty happy just to go camping and then play a bit of disc golf on the side. And
it strikes me for freedom campers and the age freedom campers, it's a great sport to travel the world with, or have some discs in your camper.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of the touring pros in the US live what they call van life, which is where they travel around the country following the tour circuit in their van with, their dog and their partner, and they just live out the back of the van, which is pretty cool. So, but look, here in New Zealand, it's probably a little bit easier just to fly a domestic flight between our events, and we've got had a bit of take up in the sport from young kind of athletes who maybe played all sorts of sports growing up, rugby, volleyball, football, and they've sort of transitioned over to disc golf, just finding that our community of people are super welcoming. So I used to play ball golf growing up and found that the competitive environment was a little bit cutthroat, but I've really found a special lot of people here at disc golf, and have kind of never looked back.
Yeah. Have you got sponsors, or are you looking for them?
Yeah, look, we've got some great opportunities to partner with brands, both here in New Zealand and overseas, to align your brand with this really exciting opportunity and one of the world's fastest growing sports. The best way to get in touch about brand collaboration and partnership opportunities is to head to our website, tourdownunder.co.nz.
Tourdownunder.co.nz.
You've got it, that's right. Yeah. The content that we'll be generating in partnership with our media partners presents a really unique fleet of content, particularly with regards to sort of destination marketing style content. So brands that have an interest in engaging with markets in the United States, but also, I suppose, here as well, might find that the Tour Down Under presents a really exciting opportunity for your brand.
Yeah, well, it may not be rugby or cricket, but it sure sounds like sport to me, Henry, no matter what Mr. Devlin says.
Yeah.
Well, look, we will have to keep in touch. I'll just take up the mantles. I'm as good a sports reporter as Devlin, quite clearly. Very good luck with it, Henry. I thank you for your time today. And I will follow at tourdownunder.co.nz. I will follow the tour with great interest, my friend.
Thanks, Sean. Such a pleasure to be on the show. And look, if Martin ever wants to come out and give it a crack, you just let him know that we'll have him anytime.
That'd be gold. We'll send a camera. That will be gold. We'll do that. I'll get him to play. That is Henry Pearson, one of the entrepreneurs behind tourdownunder.co.nz. It's a disc golf, off-season disc golf tournament for 900 people, including professionals from the Northern Hemisphere. If you're a disc golfer, I'd love to hear from you on the show. If you've picked up disc golf or you follow disc golf. Glenorchy, geez, I don't know. Marty, if it's good enough you go to Paris for the Rugby World Cup final, I think you can go to Glenorchy in February. You'll be back at work. Maybe a bit of a work trip down to Glenorchy to cover the non-sport of disc golf, Devlin. Someone says, I played it 30 years ago in the Queenstown Gardens. So much fun. That is from Marty. Is that Marty or not? Sean, every time you say disc golf, it sounds like you're speaking to me. That's from Disco, our friend. Send Martin down to Glenorchy to report on the Frisbee golfer's punishment, disc golf. I don't know what they think about Frisbee. Absolutely top sport reporting, Sean. Thanks. Hope you're wearing your platform merch. Yes, I am. That's the other thing, Martin. I'm in the studio today. It's behind the microphone, wearing my platform polo, which would be perfect, actually, for playing the sport of disc golfing, wouldn't it, Martin?